So this session will go over how to properly outline a speech. You want to really set up your outline in a way that helps you deliver it extemporaneously. What extemporaneously means is that you plan and prepare for the speech in advance, but then you deliver it in a spontaneous method. So you don't want to write out your speech word for word because this could really tempt you to read the speech or to try to memorize it, and that usually doesn't go well in front of a live audience. So the best way to really have a conversation with your audience, and that's the best kind of public speaking, is to use an extemporaneous format. So outlines help us do that. So I'm going to cover how to properly set up an outline, how to write main points that are balanced, and how to maybe start developing those, and also how to include transitions between each section of your outline. These are all things that we'll go over just in the next few minutes. So you need to set up your document first, whether this is in Microsoft Word or Google Docs or whatever word processing program you might be using. Make sure that you've got your margins set to what you want them and that you've got font selected where you want it, double spaced probably for most college papers. A good rule of thumb is to use 1-inch margins, 12-point font, and Times New Roman or Arial as the font style. So use your Roman numerals to mark the main points. In my class, I ask that your introduction section use bullets and that your conclusion section use bullets so that when you get to the body of your main points or the body of your outline, you can then mark those with the appropriate Roman numeral. That way, main point 1 is marked with Roman numeral 1, main point 2 marked with Roman numeral 2, and so on. If you need, you can use all the way up to Roman numeral 4. Most of your speeches shouldn't have more than 4 main points. If you're not sure what Roman numerals are, or if you have them on your keyboard, you do. It's simply the capital I, the capital V, and the capital X when you use Roman numerals. You also want to use A, B, and C, the capital A, B, and C, on the first level indentation under Roman numerals. That's a good way to then add details. Let's say, for instance, I was giving a speech about sharks, and my first main point talked about tiger sharks. Then any details about tiger sharks would be underneath that. So the next level underneath the ABC, you'll have 1, 2, 3. And then if you need another level inside of that, you've got the lowercase ABC. That should be kind of as far detailed as you need to get. One rule of thumb to keep in mind is that you really don't need a 1 if you're not going to have a 2. If you only have a 1 and 1 indentation there, you may just want to add that detail back on up to the B or wherever it is applied to. So you usually need a 2 if you've got a 1, you need a B if you have an A. So one of the things you want to ask yourself too when you're writing your main points and doing your outline, are they complete sentences? Have you avoid writing questions? And are they kind of balanced? If I do give a speech about sharks and I want to talk about tiger sharks for one main point, I need to then probably pick 2 other types of sharks for my other 2 main points, just to have a balance in how I develop it. That way I spend 1 minute in my first main point talking about tiger sharks, then another minute talking about nurse sharks, and then another minute talking about maybe great whites or another type of shark. So transitions, as you saw in that other slide that showed you an example of an outline, are in between the parts of your speech. They are really the bridges that you create from one part of your speech to another, and they're critical, and they're something you should plan in your outline. I like to have students write these out as full sentences, label them, and then have italics or italicize that font there so that they really stand out to me. It's a good idea to include these on your note cards as well too, so that you plan on delivering them when you deliver your speech. So you'll develop 4 transitions in a 3-point speech. You'll always have 1 more transition for however many main points you might have. They're going to sandwich right in between those parts. So one formula to use that's really easy is, now that we've learned about X, let's take a look at Y with dropping in your main points for X and Y. So now that we've learned about nurse sharks, let's take a look at tiger sharks. That could be an easy transition in between. You can also write puns. The shark speech could also say something like, now that we have taken a bite out of the first main point, let's swim on upstream to the second main point. If those don't feel comfortable for you or your topic, then don't use them. But if they do, and you can be creative and catchy with it, audiences tend to respond well. The first and last transitions are tricky. It's hard to kind of move from the introduction, where you're speaking in future tense, into the body of your outline, where you're going to then start speaking in present tense. Do your best with that one. Sometimes the best we can do is called a signpost. Read in your textbook about what those are and about how they're a little different than transitions. The last one is also tricky. I like to use an internal summary. You can look that up in your textbook as well too, an internal summary. So to summarize this, your outline will help you plan and prepare your speech. Use it as a tool, even if it seems kind of cumbersome and awkward and clunky at first. This is going to help you then really determine what it is you want to talk about and organize your ideas and then deliver it in a spontaneous way. Your main points should be written first and then developed fully using the research that you find. So make sure that you have a good plan going in. Your main points really direct you to the research you need. And then transitions are needed in between the speech parts so that you really carry your audience verbally from one part of the speech to another. It's a great time to recapture their attention in case you've lost it. And it's a great way to make sure the people are paying attention, really stay with you and really understand what you're talking about.